From the frozen tundras to the scorching deserts, the natural world is replete with wonders, both beautiful and brutal. Yet, for all its complexity, the animal kingdom rarely displays the sheer ruthlessness found in the human capacity for control. In the delicate ecosystem of human societies, there exist forces that, like predators, seek to dominate and subdue. These forces, often cloaked in the guise of authority and order, are the hallmarks of totalitarian regimes. Their methods, as varied as the environments they inhabit, share a singular goal: the absolute subjugation of the individual will to the power of the state. Over the next few chapters, we will journey into the heart of these regimes, examining the intricate and often insidious ways in which they maintain their grip on power. Prepare yourselves, for the path ahead is a sobering reminder of the fragility of freedom and the constant vigilance required to safeguard it. Deep within the arsenal of totalitarian regimes lies a weapon as potent as any army: propaganda. Like the siren's call, it weaves a tapestry of misinformation, designed to lure unsuspecting citizens into a web of manufactured consent. This carefully crafted narrative often exploits primal instincts: fear, patriotism, and prejudice, twisting them to serve the regime's agenda. Through repetition and emotional manipulation, it seeps into the collective consciousness, blurring the lines between truth and fabrication. Realities are distorted, enemies fabricated, and dissent silenced, all under the guise of a greater good. Those who dare to question the narrative are swiftly branded as traitors or enemies of the people, ostracized and silenced. This insidious form of control thrives on ignorance and apathy, feeding on the very freedoms it seeks to extinguish. It is a stark reminder that the battle for the human mind is often won not on the battlefield, but in the subtle whispers of carefully crafted lies. Where propaganda fails to persuade, censorship steps in to silence. Like an iron curtain, it descends upon society, suppressing any information that challenges the regime's carefully constructed narrative. Newspapers are shuttered, books banned, and websites blocked, creating an information vacuum filled only with the regime's approved narrative. Journalists who dare to speak truth to power are intimidated, imprisoned, or simply disappear. The free exchange of ideas, the lifeblood of a healthy society, is stifled, replaced by a chilling silence. Fear becomes the ultimate censor, as citizens, witnessing the fate of those who dare to speak out, retreat into a self-imposed silence. This suppression of dissent extends beyond the public sphere, infiltrating private conversations and personal relationships. Neighbors become informants, family members turn on each other, and suspicion poisons the very fabric of society. In the hushed corridors of absolute power, a new breed of predator emerges. The totalitarian regime, much like a hawk circling high above the plains, relies on an all-seeing eye to maintain its grip on the populace. This, my friends, is the chilling reality of surveillance. Gone are the days of whispered dissent in darkened taverns. The watchful eye of the state now penetrates even the deepest shadows, recording every word, every glance, every fleeting thought that dares to challenge the established order. Like a spider patiently weaving its web, the regime constructs a vast network of surveillance. From the unblinking gaze of CCTV cameras to the insidious tendrils of internet monitoring, no citizen can truly escape the pervasive reach of the state. Every phone call, every email, every click and scroll meticulously analyzed, building a comprehensive profile of each individual, a digital fingerprint of their very soul. This constant scrutiny creates a chilling effect on society, a suffocating blanket of fear that smothers any flicker of rebellion before it can catch fire. For within the totalitarian's domain, privacy is not a right but a privilege, and one that is rarely, if ever, bestowed. In the unforgiving wilderness of totalitarian rule, political opposition is not merely discouraged, it is hunted to the brink of extinction. Like a pack of wolves relentlessly pursuing a wounded elk, the regime employs a brutal arsenal of tactics to eliminate any threat to its monopoly on power. Political parties, those vibrant expressions of diverse thought and ideology, are crushed under the iron heel of the state. Their leaders are imprisoned, exiled, or simply vanish without a trace. Their voices silenced, their ideas relegated to the forbidden whispers of the underground. Elections, those cornerstones of democratic societies, become nothing more than carefully orchestrated charades, hollow rituals designed to provide a veneer of legitimacy to the regime's iron grip on power. Opposition candidates are intimidated, disqualified on spurious grounds, or imprisoned on trumped-up charges. The ballot box, once a symbol of the people's will, is transformed into an instrument of oppression, its contents manipulated to reflect the regime's desired outcome. The illusion of choice is maintained, but the reality is a carefully controlled performance, a macabre political theatre where the outcome is preordained. The tendrils of totalitarian control extend far beyond the halls of government and the reach of the secret police infiltrating the very fabric of a nation's economy. Like a puppet master manipulating its marionettes, the regime exerts absolute control over every aspect of economic life. Private property, that cornerstone of individual liberty and economic freedom, is often abolished or severely restricted. Factories, farms and businesses are seized by the state, their former owners stripped of their livelihoods and forced to conform to the regime's dictates. Centralized planning becomes the order of the day, replacing the invisible hand of the free market with the iron fist of the state. Bureaucrats, often with little understanding of the complexities of the economy, make decisions about production, distribution and consumption, dictating what goods and services will be produced, how they will be allocated, and at what price. The consequences of this centralized control are often disastrous. Shortages of essential goods become commonplace as the regime's inefficient planning fails to keep pace with the needs of the population. Black markets flourish as citizens struggle to obtain the goods and services they desperately need. In the unforgiving struggle for power, some regimes resort to extraordinary measures to ensure their grip on the populace. These regimes cultivate a cult of personality, carefully crafting an image of their leader as an infallible, almost divine being. Every state-controlled media outlet, from newspapers to radio waves, broadcasts the leader's image and message. Statues of the leader, often towering and imposing, are erected in public squares, silent sentinels reminding citizens of their supposed omnipresence. The leader's portrait finds its way into homes, businesses, and even places of worship, a constant visual reminder of their authority. This pervasive presence creates an atmosphere of reverence, making it difficult for citizens to question the leader's actions or motives. This manufactured adoration seeks to stifle dissent before it even arises. By elevating the leader to an almost mythical status, totalitarian regimes discourage critical thinking and independent thought. The leader's word becomes law, their pronouncements accepted without question. In this way, the cult of personality becomes an invisible cage, confining the minds and spirits of the people. While the cult of personality seeks to manufacture consent, totalitarian regimes also understand the raw power of fear. Like a predator stalking its prey, these regimes utilize fear and intimidation to maintain their grip on power. Secret police forces, often operating with impunity, become the unseen eyes and ears of the state, monitoring citizens for any sign of dissent or disloyalty. The threat of imprisonment, torture, or even disappearance hangs over the heads of the populace, a constant reminder of the price of disobedience. Arbitrary arrests and detentions become commonplace, creating an atmosphere of paranoia and suspicion. Neighbors are encouraged to inform on one another, eroding trust and sowing seeds of discord within communities. The legal system, far from being a bastion of justice, becomes another tool of repression. Show trials, lacking any semblance of due process, are staged to make examples of those deemed enemies of the state. The accused are often coerced into confessing to crimes they did not commit, their forced admissions broadcast to the nation as a chilling warning to others. Totalitarian regimes understand that true power lies not just in controlling the present, but in shaping the future. To secure their grip on power for generations to come, they recognize the importance of controlling education. Schools and universities, rather than being bastions of free thought and critical inquiry, become breeding grounds for indoctrination, carefully crafted to mold young minds in the image of the regime. Textbooks are rewritten, history revised, and science manipulated to align with the regime's ideology. Objective truth is sacrificed on the altar of political expediency, replaced with a carefully curated version of reality designed to glorify the regime and demonize its enemies. Teachers, often carefully vetted for their loyalty, become mouthpieces for the state, tasked with instilling the regime's ideology into the hearts and minds of their students. Critical thinking is discouraged, replaced with rote memorization and unquestioning obedience. Students are taught to accept the regime's pronouncements as gospel, their natural curiosity stifled by the fear of straying from the approved narrative. The very act of questioning becomes an act of defiance, a threat to the carefully constructed edifice of the regime's control. In the hushed stillness of oppression, dissent is a fragile seedling struggling to take root. Totalitarian regimes, acutely aware of this vulnerability, employ a myriad of tactics to suffocate any whisper of opposition. Like a gardener ruthlessly plucking weeds, they seek to create a landscape of absolute conformity, where any challenge to their authority is swiftly and decisively silenced. One of the most insidious methods employed is the chilling effect. Through a combination of overt threats and subtle intimidation, the regime creates an atmosphere of fear and self-censorship. Citizens, acutely aware of the potential consequences of speaking out, retreat into a shell of silence, choosing the safety of conformity over the perils of dissent. The very act of questioning, of expressing an alternative viewpoint, becomes fraught with danger, a tightrope walk over an abyss of potential repercussions. In the digital age, information has become a powerful currency, and totalitarian regimes are adept at manipulating it to their advantage. They understand that control over the flow of information is paramount to maintaining power, shaping public perception, and suppressing dissenting voices. Like a puppeteer skillfully manipulating strings, they weave intricate webs of disinformation, distorting reality to fit their narrative. State-controlled media outlets become echo chambers, disseminating carefully curated propaganda that promotes the regime's ideology and discredits opposing viewpoints. News is filtered, facts are twisted, and alternative sources of information are suppressed, leaving citizens with a distorted and incomplete picture of the world. This manipulation extends beyond traditional media, seeping into the digital realm, where armies of bots and trolls spread disinformation and sow discord, further muddying the waters of truth. The internet, once hailed as a tool for liberation, has become a double-edged sword. While it offers unprecedented access to information, it also provides totalitarian regimes with powerful tools for surveillance, censorship, and manipulation. Social media platforms, initially intended to connect people, are increasingly being used to monitor online activity, identify dissent, and spread propaganda. The sheer volume of information available online can be overwhelming, making it difficult to distinguish a fact from fiction. This information overload creates an environment where individuals are more susceptible to manipulation, their critical thinking skills dulled by the constant barrage of conflicting narratives. By controlling the flow of information both online and offline, totalitarian regimes can effectively control the narrative, shaping public opinion and maintaining their grip on power. In this digital battleground, the fight for truth and freedom of information becomes a constant struggle, a race against the relentless tide of disinformation. And so we conclude our exploration of the 10 methods employed by totalitarian governments to control their people. From the insidious whispers of propaganda to the brutal realities of political repression, we have witnessed the chilling efficiency with which these regimes seek to maintain their grip on power. But let us not forget that the human spirit is resilient and the yearning for freedom burns bright even in the darkest of times. By understanding the tactics of oppression, by remaining vigilant against the insidious creep of authoritarianism, we can work together to safeguard our own freedoms and support those struggling against tyranny around the world. If you found this exploration insightful, please do leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and above all, stay free.